Hi, everyone. Welcome back to English Unlimited Podcast. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Jamie.
I had a real struggle last week, and I think a lot of you listening can probably relate to this.
Oh, yeah?
I was trying to start this new kind of complex project. It wasn't about learning English this time, but the feeling was exactly the same. I kept staring at the first page.
The blank page.
Well, blank page, it just felt so big, so overwhelming. And the first thought that popped into my head was, I should wait. I need the perfect moment.
Right. I'm not ready yet.
I'm not exactly.
Yeah.
I need to know every single step before I even try to take step one.
Right.
It was just paralyzing.
Oh, I know that feeling so well.
Yeah.
It's that paralysis, right?
Yeah.
You look at someone who's successful, like maybe someone who seems totally fluent in English or someone who's thriving in their job.
Yeah.
And you think, wow, they must have been born with some magic skill. Or, maybe they just got lucky. You start to believe that this huge transformation is just a sudden event.
A sudden event, yes. And when I stepped back from it and really thought about why I was so stuck, I realized it's the exact same reason I see people stop trying to learn a language.
Mm-hmm.
We want the big transformation right now, but we get completely paralyzed by the sheer size of the goal. We forget that fluency or success or happiness, none of these things are instant.
And that thought, that realization you had, that's really the starting point for our deep dive today.
It really is.
We're going to challenge that whole idea that transformation is fast or dramatic.
Yeah.
Instead, we're going to look at the sources that confirm a much simpler, but honestly a far more powerful truth.
Which is?
That big success.
It's
just the result of all the little, daily, consistent changes you make. It's a gradual process.
So we're diving into the science and the psychology behind that consistent action. We want to give you, our listeners, practical steps to move from feeling overwhelmed and stuck,
Right.
whether it's with your English skills or any other life goal,
Right.
and move towards actually building a system that pretty much guarantees progress.
And we've pulled together some fascinating material for this. As always, we'll introduce and clearly explain some of those intermediate level words and phrases, things related to mindset, behavior, and change, all throughout our conversation.
So you can expand your vocabulary while you're kind of changing your life.
Exactly.
This deep dive is designed to be your shortcut, really, a way to understand how real progress actually works. It's all about getting that necessary distilled knowledge as quickly as possible.
And before we jump into the details of the strategy, just a quick but really important reminder for everyone listening.
Yes.
Please, if you're enjoying this, take a moment to subscribe to English Unlimited Podcast and like this episode. It honestly helps us so much.
It really does. It helps us grow our community and just keep producing these detailed deep dives for you.
Okay, so shall we unpack the biggest roadblocks, the things that are holding people back?
Let's do it.
So if the formula for success is so simple on the surface, just do a little bit every day, why do most people fail?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. Why do they start so strong, maybe that first week of January with a New Year's resolution? But then they get stuck, they give up, and they just revert to their old ways.
Well, change is exciting to think about, a fresh start, but it's so difficult to actually implement. The sources we looked at, they really highlight 4 main barriers, like 4 big psychological traps.
Okay.
And these traps are what keep people from taking that first small, consistent step. So I think we need to identify them first, right? So we can start to dismantle them.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the first one?
The first one is maybe the most fundamental of all. It's the deep-seated fear of failure.
Ah, yes. That's a big one.
It's that constant quiet voice in your head asking, what if I try really hard? What if I dedicate my time, maybe even spend some money on classes, and I still fail?
What if I invest everything and I still don't become fluent?
Or what if people laugh at my accent when I try to speak? That worry. It becomes so overwhelming that your brain just decides, you know what? It's safer. It's less painful to just do nothing at all.
It's a form of self-protection, right? If you don't play the game, you can't lose the game.
Exactly.
But of course, as you know, you can't win either. And the sources are absolutely clear on this point. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is not that successful people avoid failure.
Right. That's a huge myth. Every single successful person has a history that's just. It's littered with failures, with mistakes, with false starts. The key, and I think we need to define this really clearly for our listeners, is persistence.
Persistence. Can you break that word down a bit?
Yeah.
What does it actually mean in practice?
Yeah, for sure. Persistence is Well, it's the refusal to stop trying. It's seeing failure not as the opposite of success, but as the raw material for success. It's the ingredient.
I like that. The raw material. So think about something like learning irregular verbs in English. It's a classic example.
Oh, a nightmare for everyone.
Right. So you try to use the past tense in a conversation when you make a mistake. You say something like, I go to the store yesterday. Now, if you have that deep fear of failure, you might feel this rush of shame and just decide, I'm not good at this. I'm going to stop speaking.
Yeah, you shut down.
You shut down.
Yeah.
But if you operate with persistence, you realize something different. You realize that failure was just a piece of data.
A piece of data. That's a great way to put it.
Your conversation partner corrected you, or maybe you corrected yourself later. Your brain now has new information. It knows, okay, the correct data point is went. You just got valuable, free information.
So if you stop trying, you're literally cutting off your brain's supply of necessary data.
Exactly. Persistence is just showing up repeatedly to collect more data points. That's all it is.
Okay, that makes so much sense. So what's the second barrier?
The second barrier is what the sources call the trap of lack of direction.
Ah, okay.
People know the destination they want, fluent English, a better career, whatever it is, but they wait and they wait for the perfect plan to get there.
This is what's often called analysis paralysis, right?
Precisely. You spend so much time researching the perfect online course, the perfect textbook, the best grammar rule book, the best flashcard app.
That you never actually open any of them and start studying. I have been so guilty of this.
Me too. We all have. It's the search for that comprehensive, flawless roadmap. People feel like they need step 1 all the way through step 100 guaranteed before they can even attempt step 1.
And the goal seems so gigantic, the road's so long, that they just feel completely overwhelmed and they never start.
It's so important to remember that an imperfect action taken today is infinitely more valuable than a perfect plan that just sits in your drawer for 6 months.
A simple rule is so much better than a complex plan that just makes you stop because you're confused.
Absolutely. And that lack of movement, that inertia, is often fed by our third barrier.
Which is?
Negative self-talk. This is the internal monologue that just poisons all your progress.
The limiting thoughts, the ones that just constantly run in the background of your mind. I'm too old to learn this.
I'm just not a language person. That's what I hear all the time.
I don't have enough time. These phrases, they aren't truths. They're often excuses that feel comfortable.
And when you engage in this kind of, it's self-sabotage.
Yeah.
You're basically giving your brain commands.
Right.
If you tell yourself you are not capable, your brain literally starts looking for evidence in your daily life to prove you right. It will ignore the small successes you have.
And it will magnify the small failures, creating this vicious cycle of negativity.
It stops progress before it even begins. We're going to talk about the antidote to this later on when we discuss something called the reticular activating system. But for now, it's just so important to recognize these thoughts as the enemies of progress.
Okay, so fear of failure, lack of direction, negative self-talk. What's the fourth and final one?
And this might be the most common pitfall of all. I mean, this is one that trips up everyone, whether you're a B1 learner or a CEO. It's the motivation myth.
The motivation myth. I think I know what this is.
It's the belief that motivation is a prerequisite for action, that it has to come first.
So people wait for that magical feeling of readiness.
Exactly. I'll start my English study when I feel energized tomorrow morning, or I'll practice speaking when I feel confident enough.
And this is the critical insight, right? The one that everyone listening has to absorb.
Yes. It's this. Motivation comes after action, not before. You don't wait to feel ready to take the first step.
It's the other way around. That initial step, even if it's a messy one, creates a tiny feeling of accomplishment. And that feeling of success, even if it's just completing a 5-minute task, it releases chemicals in your brain, like dopamine, which is linked to reward. That small hit of success is the true engine of motivation for the second step.
You have to force the action first, even when you feel tired or totally unmotivated. I remember trying to start a physical fitness routine. I kept waiting for that Monday morning where I would just wake up feeling excited to go to the gym.
And did it ever happen?
It never happened. Not once. I had to literally drag myself there on a rainy Tuesday. But once I completed the workout, that feeling of accomplishment, it made it so much easier to go back on Wednesday.
That's the psychological mechanism right there. The feeling of success, that little dopamine rush, it signals to your brain, hey, this activity's rewarding, let's repeat it.
But if you wait for the reward before you start the activity, you will wait forever. You have to create the momentum first.
So understanding what holds you back, fear of failure, no direction, negative self-talk, and waiting for motivation, that's the essential first step. You can't fix a problem you refuse to even acknowledge. Okay, so we've identified the barriers, now for the solution, and this is where the source material gets. Well, it gets truly exciting for me. The solution is all about the power of small, consistent improvements. We're going to leave that idea of dramatic, sudden change behind and really embrace gradual progress.
This is where we need to talk about the famous 1% rule. This is the concept that, honestly, it truly changed how I think about building skills, including my own second language skills.
It sounds almost, I don't know, too simple maybe, but the math behind it is actually profound.
It really is.
The 1% rule just says you commit to improving just 1% every single day. Not a huge, exhausting 50% effort.
Just 1%.
Just 1%. Let's break down the math simply, because this is the absolute core of our deep dive today. A lot of people think if you improve 1% every day for a year, you just get 365% better, right?
Right. Simple addition. But that's not how it works.
No. It's because of a powerful concept called compounding. And we should probably define that word carefully.
Yeah, let's do that. Compounding basically means that your effort stacks on top of your previous effort. So you aren't just improving from your starting point each day.
Right. You're improving based on your already improved self from yesterday.
Think of it not like simple addition, but more like multiplication. If you start at a value of 1, that's your current skill level, and you improve by just 1% every day, the mathematical equation is 1.01 multiplied by itself 365 times.
And the result of that small, almost unnoticeable daily improvement it's staggering. After 1 year, you become 37 times better than when you started.
37 times. That's a 3,700% improvement, not 365%. It's huge.
It's mind-blowing. And the reverse is also true and kind of scary.
It is. If, on the other hand, you get 1% worse every day, maybe you skip practicing or you let that negative self-talk take over, you don't just go back to 0, you degrade almost completely.
The equation is 0.99 multiplied by itself 365 times. You end up near 0.
And that just illustrates the immense power of consistency.
Let's use an analogy that might be a bit more concrete for our listeners than, say, banking interest, which can be a bit abstract.
Good idea.
Let's talk about building a wall.
Okay, a wall.
Imagine you're building a huge wall, but not out of giant stones. You're building it out of tiny little bricks. Every single day, your only job is to successfully lay one small brick. That's your 1% improvement.
So today, you learn one new English grammar rule. That's 1 brick.
Exactly. Tomorrow, you understand that rule, plus you learn one new vocabulary word. That's the second brick, placed on top of the first. The day after, you understand both of those things, plus you pronounce a difficult sound correctly.
You're never starting over from scratch. Each new brick relies on the stability of the brick that you placed the day before.
Right. And over time, those tiny individual bricks, they compound. They stack up into this incredibly strong high wall fluency, in this case, that would feel totally impossible to build if you only focused on the size of the wall and not the daily act of just laying one brick.
And that consistent act of laying the brick,
Yeah.
it also fundamentally changes who you are. Which brings us to another key concept from the sources, which is all about identity.
Yes. Small changes redefine your identity over time.
We so often focus on the results. Like, I want to get a good grade in my English exam.
But the real transformation happens when you shift your identity. You stop focusing on the result and you start focusing on the person you are becoming.
Every single time you perform a small action reading for 10 minutes, reviewing one flashcard, you are casting a vote for the person you want to become.
I love that. Casting a vote.
You shift from saying, I want to be a reader, to truly believing I am a reader. You shift from I want to be fluent to I am an English speaker.
And once that identity solidifies in your mind, the actions just become easier. A reader doesn't have to force themselves to read. They read because that is who they are.
An English speaker doesn't struggle to find the motivation to practice. They practice because that is part of their identity now.
So let's make this super practical with some tiny specific examples for our B1 listeners. We need habits that are so small you genuinely cannot say no to them.
Okay, like what?
Like reading for just 10 minutes a day. Maybe it's not a whole book. Maybe it's just reading the back of a cereal box in English or one short news summary on your phone.
That is a manageable 1% improvement.
Totally. Or practicing English for only 5 minutes daily. I mean, set a timer. That could be reviewing just 3 flashcards while you wait for the kettle to boil.
Or listening to one short segment of this deep dive again before you even get out of bed.
Another crucial small habit is replacing that negative self-talk. The moment you find yourself thinking, I'm bad at grammar, you immediately have to counter it with something like, I am learning and I am getting better at one thing every day.
That's a 1% improvement in your mindset, which might be the most powerful kind of improvement there is.
Absolutely. The anecdote from the sources about the person who achieved English fluency just by listening to podcasts every day really proves this point.
It does. The person didn't spend huge chunks of time studying grammar tables. They chose one simple, enjoyable habit listening, and they just performed it with absolute consistency every single day for a year.
See, consistency, not intensity, is the driver. If you study for 6 hours one day and then you feel totally burned out and you skip the rest of the week, your brain registers that activity as a painful, unsustainable experience.
But if you study for 20 minutes every day, your brain registers it as a normal, necessary, and manageable routine.
So our first action challenge is simple. If you're listening right now and wondering where to start, stop planning the perfect 6-month course.
Just pick one small habit today, 5 minutes of practice, and commit to doing it for the next 48 hours. Just start the momentum. Now, we've established that small action is vital, but we both know that you can have the perfect small plan and still fail if the most powerful force in your life, your mindset, is working against you.
Totally. The action is the what you do, but the mindset is it's the framework. It's the thing that dictates how you interpret your results.
Exactly. If you make a mistake, does your mindset tell you to stop, or does it tell you to try again?
And this brings us to that fundamental difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. The sources say this is the single biggest predictor of long-term success.
It's huge. Let's clarify this distinction really thoroughly. If you operate with a fixed mindset, you believe your basic qualities, like your intelligence or your talent for languages, are just fixed traits. They're set in stone.
They can't be changed.
They can't be changed. So when someone with a fixed mindset makes a mistake, they think, this proves I'm not smart enough, or I'll never be good at this.
And so they stop trying to protect their ego.
Exactly. But the growth mindset is the complete opposite. It's the belief that your abilities and your intelligence can be developed through hard work, through effort, through dedication.
So when someone with a growth mindset makes a mistake, they think, what?
They think, okay, that didn't work. What can I learn from this? How can I improve next time? The mistake becomes a lesson, not a limitation.
That distinction, seeing effort as a path to mastery rather than a sign of weakness, that's massive.
It's everything. One mindset closes the door instantly, the other opens it wider every single time a challenge appears. And this is directly linked to an amazing filtering system in our brains.
This is where we need to talk about the reticular activating system, or the RAS.
We do. Now, this sounds like complex science, I know, but it is one of the most practical pieces of psychology you can possibly learn.
Okay, so define the RAS for us and maybe give us a couple of clear analogies, because this concept is the key to controlling that negative self-talk we discussed earlier.
Absolutely. So the reticular activating system is essentially your brain's high-tech filtering system. We are just bombarded by millions of pieces of information every second. Sights, sounds, smell.
Way too much to process.
Way too much.
Yeah.
The RAS is the part of your brain that decides what's important enough to bring to your conscious attention.
So it's kind of like a security guard standing at the door of a very busy building.
That's a perfect analogy.
The security guard can only let through the people or the information that is actually relevant to what's happening inside the building.
Exactly. Or, here's another one. Think of it like a spotlight on a dark stage. The stage is everything happening around you, but your RAS is the spotlight. It only illuminates what you have trained it to look for.
And the classic example of this is when you decide you want to buy a specific red car. Before that decision, you never really noticed red cars. But the moment you decide, suddenly you see that exact red car everywhere on the road.
The cars didn't suddenly appear. Your RAS has just been activated. It's been told to prioritize that specific piece of information.
And here's how that applies to change. If you constantly tell yourself, I'm bad at English, this is impossible, what happens to your RAS?
Your RAS acts like a security guard who's focused only on failure. It filters out every successful moment you have, that compliment you got on your pronunciation, the word you finally remembered.
And it only brings to your attention the evidence that proves you're right. The mistake you made, the grammar rule you forgot.
But when you actively work to reprogram your internal conversation with a growth mindset, when you start saying, I am improving every day, I am focused on the small wins, you literally shift the spotlight.
Your brain stops looking for evidence of failure and it starts looking for evidence of progress. It notices that you understood the news report or that you used the past tense correctly in 3 sentences today.
You are essentially training that security guard to focus on opportunity, not on obstacles. And the sources provide 3 really powerful tools to actively reprogram your mind using this RAS mechanism.
Okay, what are they?
The first tool is affirmations. Now, these are not magic spells. They are conscious, positive self-talk designed to replace those old limiting thoughts.
Right, but the key to affirmations is that they have to be believable, don't they?
Yes, that's critical. Don't say, I'm perfectly fluent right now. If you're clearly at a B1 level, your brain will just reject that as false.
So instead, you should use affirmations that are focused on process and progress.
Exactly. Things like, I am dedicated to my learning, or my understanding of English is growing stronger every single day. You focus on the action, not the unattainable result.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second tool?
The second tool is visualization, and this is simply seeing yourself succeed.
This might sound a little bit like a dream, but there's real science here.
There is. When you mentally rehearse success, when you close your eyes and imagine yourself speaking clearly in a meeting or easily writing an email in English, it actually tricks your brain. The brain can't easily distinguish between a vividly imagined event and a real event.
So by visualizing success, you're preparing your neural pathways. You're telling your RAS, this outcome is possible and it's probable.
And when you encounter the real situation,
Yeah.
your brain has already created a kind of roadmap for it, which makes the action feel way less intimidating.
Brilliant. Okay, what's the third tool?
And the third tool, which often gets overlooked but is so powerful, is gratitude practice. When you dedicate just a little time every day to focus on what is going well in your life, even tiny things, like I have access to free learning materials on the internet, or I had 5 minutes of uninterrupted study time today.
You are strengthening that positive filter in your brain.
Yes. A brain that's trained in gratitude naturally looks for opportunities and successes, rather than focusing only on lack and deficiency. It totally transforms the environment in which your small actions are taking place.
So mindset transformation isn't magic. It's about intentionally training your brain's filtering system, the RAS, to work for you, to filter for progress, not paralysis. That idea of paralysis, that brings us directly to the next huge barrier, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The dangerous illusion that we have to wait for the perfect moment.
Yes, the challenge of the imperfection principle.
It truly holds back so many B1 learners. They think they need to be completely ready, completely fluent in all the grammar, or have perfect pronunciation before they can even start speaking or writing or joining a conversation group.
But the truth, and this is a difficult one to internalize, is that you will never feel fully ready.
Never.
Confidence doesn't come before the action. Confidence is a product of the action.
Okay, but let me raise a point of friction here. If we tell our listeners done is better than perfect, isn't there a danger that that encourages sloppiness? Like, wouldn't a B1 learner then just start speaking or writing without caring at all about grammar or vocabulary accuracy?
That is a brilliant point, and it definitely requires some nuance. The imperfection principle isn't about promoting sloppiness. It's about conquering inertia.
Inertia. Let's define that word simply.
Okay. Inertia is just the tendency for things to stay as they are unless an outside force changes them. So if you are sitting still, you will stay sitting still unless you consciously decide to get up and move.
Okay. So imperfect action is the outside force that defeats that inertia.
Precisely. If you wait for the flawless moment, you provide your brain with 0 feedback. Perfect planning provides 0 data points. However, when you take imperfect action, you speak, you write, you use a new word, and you make a mistake. You receive immediate feedback.
And that feedback is the data you need for the 1% improvement we talked about earlier.
Yes. Mistakes are not failures. They are directional signals. If I write an email in English and my colleague politely corrects my use of a few prepositions, that feedback is gold. If I wait 3 months to even start writing emails, I get nothing.
This is so vital for speaking English. That hesitation to speak because you're afraid of making mistakes is the single biggest blocker for B1 learners who want to move to B2.
It is. They wait for perfection, and the fear only grows bigger because the perceived gap between their skill and the required perfection just gets wider and wider every day they wait.
But once you take that first plunge, once you realize that, say, 90% accuracy is more than enough to communicate effectively, the real change happens.
You realize that making mistakes is simply the act of paying your tuition fee for fluency.
I love that. Paying your tuition fee for fluency. And that's where that phrase we love comes in. Done is better than perfect.
It means that taking imperfect action, sending the slightly messy email, starting the awkward conversation, submitting the essay that's not quite flawless, is always superior to waiting for a perfection that never comes.
Waiting just leads to inaction.
If you spend 3 hours obsessively checking every single preposition and article in one 200-word essay, you're prioritizing perfection over progress.
Right. In that same amount of time, you could have written 5 imperfect but clear essays. And those 5 acts of writing would have built 5 times the momentum and generated 5 times the feedback you need for improvement.
Perfectionism is often just fear disguised in a suit of armor. It's the fear of being seen as less than capable. But we have to choose momentum over paralysis.
So let's make this immediate. We want you, the listener, to think of one thing right now that you have been postponing because you don't feel ready.
Maybe it's joining an online speaking group or starting a practice conversation with a colleague.
And here is the immediate non-negotiable challenge. Take one small, imperfect step towards that postponed goal today.
Not tomorrow, today. Just start the engine.
Yeah.
Because that first messy step is what creates the momentum that builds the confidence you need for the second step.
Yeah.
So far, we've focused a lot on the internal game, right?
Yeah.
Mindset and action. But now we need to look outward because our personal growth is not happening in a vacuum.
Good point. It's heavily influenced by our external environment.
Absolutely. You could have the strongest mindset and the best plan in the world, but if you're constantly surrounded by negativity or by people who don't support your goal,
You will constantly feel like you are pushing a huge rock uphill. It's exhausting.
the people you spend time with, the content you consume, even passively on social media, and the general atmosphere you live in. All of it is constantly shaping your behavior, usually without you even realizing it.
This is summarized by that really powerful observation from the sources. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Let's analyze the implication of that statement, especially for someone learning English. If your 5 closest friends or colleagues are constantly negative, if they complain about their work, if they never try anything new, and if they insist on only speaking your native language with you, what happens?
Their low energy and their lack of motivation will inevitably rub off on you.
Let's define that phrase, rub off.
Yeah, it just means that their qualities or their characteristics are gradually and unconsciously adopted by you just from being around them all the time.
So if they're constantly saying learning English is too hard or what's the point, that attitude rubs off. Suddenly, your own motivation to do your 5 minutes of practice feels difficult or even pointless.
You start conforming to the group average.
But the reverse is incredibly powerful. If you surround yourself with positive, goal-driven individuals, people who are learning new skills, trying new things, celebrating small wins,
Their drive, their optimism, and their habit of practicing will rub off on you. It makes those difficult actions feel normal and necessary.
so curating your environment is an active process. It's not passive. You have to intentionally design the space and the social circle that will support your growth.
So what are the actionable steps here?
Well, the first one is simple, and it involves the content you consume. Add positive influences.
We're talking about actively following inspirational people, authors, speakers, positive educational social media accounts that are related to learning and personal development.
You are intentionally filling your mental space with encouraging voices. Think of it like intellectual nourishment.
Just as you choose healthy food for your body, you have to choose healthy input for your brain.
If you consume endless negative news or toxic gossip, that is the fuel your RAS will prioritize.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second step?
Second, and this is so crucial for language learning, join communities. We cannot overstate the power of finding your tribe.
Your tribe.
Joining online learning communities, language exchange groups, or even just a positive book club provides 3 things that are essential for growth: structure, a sense of shared struggle, and people to practice with.
I remember that anecdote from the source material about the individual who felt so isolated in their English learning journey. They only found true, consistent progress once they joined a community. And the reason was accountability. Someone was waiting to practice with them and celebration. Having a team to validate your small 1% win makes it feel so much more real.
It shifts your self-perception from, I am struggling alone in my room with a grammar book, to we are all growing together and my effort is supported. It's a huge shift.
It is. Okay, and what's the third and final step?
The third step, which is often the hardest, is to reduce negativity. This involves conscious social pruning.
Social pruning. I like that.
Yeah.
So this might mean limiting the time you spend with people who are constantly complaining or criticizing or just trying to drag your energy down.
They're the anchors that prevent your progress. You can still be friendly, of course, but you have to protect your limited energy and focus.
It also means being intentional about your media consumption. Cutting down on excessive exposure to negative news cycles or overly dramatic social media content can dramatically free up mental space.
And that's energy that you can then dedicate to your 1% improvements. Negativity drains you. Positivity fuels you.
So here is the final pivotal question we want you to ask yourself. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with?
Are their attitudes, their habits, and their energy helping you grow? Are they pushing you to be better? Or are they holding you back and encouraging inertia?
If the answer isn't the former, then some adjustments are absolutely needed.
Remember, transformation isn't just about what you do in isolation. It's about strategically designing an environment that makes consistent action the path of least resistance.
Wow.
This has been an incredibly detailed deep dive. We started by diagnosing those common barriers to change, the 4 big traps.
Right. Fear of failure, lack of direction, that damaging negative self-talk, and of course, the motivation myth.
We then introduced the solution, the staggering power of the 1% rule. We learned that small, consistent actions, like reading for just 10 minutes a day, don't just add up.
They compound, making you 37 times better over the course of a year. It's amazing.
We then dove deep into the mind, stressing that fundamental necessity of operating with a growth mindset over a fixed mindset.
And we discovered how simple tools like affirmations, visualization, and gratitude can actually train your brain's reticular activating system to filter for progress instead of failure.
And we addressed that fear of inaction with the imperfection principle, concluding that done is better than perfect. Imperfect action is the key to defeating inertia and generating the crucial feedback you need for that 1% improvement.
The final key takeaway is so powerful, and we really want you to remember this. You have far more control over your life, your learning speed, and your success than you think you do.
Transformation is not a sudden, unpredictable event. It is the predictable, gradual result of consistent, small effort that's supported by a powerful environment.
And we hope that learning the specific vocabulary we use today, words like compounding, inertia, reticular activating system, and affirmations, will empower you to articulate these goals and your strategy even more effectively.
Now it's time for our mandatory micro-challenge.
Yes. Think of that one small change you committed to earlier today. Maybe it's using one new English word, or practicing for just 5 minutes, or actively following one positive, inspiring account.
Whatever it is, do that one small thing right now. As soon as this is over, start the momentum today.
And for those of you who want to explore the philosophy behind this deep dive even further, here's a provocative thought for you to think about. Research the specific difference between building systems and identity, like we've discussed today, from modern habit science, and compare that to older, more traditional goal-setting methods, like simple New Year's resolutions.
Why are consistent systems more powerful and more durable than just relying on sheer willpower?
That is a fantastic area for deeper exploration. Understanding the science really does make the action easier. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
And don't forget to subscribe to English Unlimited Podcast. Share this episode with anyone who you think needs a little nudge to start their journey. And please leave us a review. Let's keep growing together.
I'm Charlie. See you next time.
And I'm Jamie. Bye.